Why is it that you can wake up at 6 a.m. without hesitation for a job you despise, but you cannot find the strength to open your eyes at the same hour for something you claim to love? You blame laziness. You search for motivation, for systems, for the right productivity method. You try harder. You fail again. You tell yourself next week will be different. It won't be. Not because you lack discipline, because you lack a self you actually want to become. Discipline doesn't fail you. The identity behind it does. Carl Jung spent decades studying the version of ourselves we present to the world. He called it the persona, the mask we wear to function in society, to pay the bills, to seem acceptable, to keep the peace. This mask is highly disciplined. It wakes up on time, meets deadlines, and performs whatever is required. But it performs out of fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of what happens if you stop. And then you close the door and try to work on something that actually matters to you. The mask comes off, and what's left behind is a hollow space, an identity that doesn't know who it is without someone else's instructions. You cannot force a mask to have a vision. Discipline without identity is just performance, and eventually the performer collapses. You are not lazy. You are loyal to a version of yourself that was never really yours. Most people build their lives backwards. They focus on outcomes. I want to be fit. I want to write a book. I want to build something real. So they create systems, track habits, and force themselves through routines they hate, using willpower as fuel. But willpower is a finite resource. It depletes. And when it runs out, you return to exactly who you were before. William James, the father of modern psychology, understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. He observed that human beings change their lives not by changing their actions first, but by changing their attitudes of mind, their identity. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it precisely. When someone trying to quit smoking is offered a cigarette, they can respond two ways. The first says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Two words different, completely different internal architecture. The first person needs discipline. The second person is simply being who they are. You don't need more willpower. You need a different story about who you are. Your brain is designed to close the gap between what you believe about yourself and how you act. If your internal identity says, "I am someone who tries and never finishes," your mind will protect that story. Because to finish something would mean destroying the version of you that has existed for years. And to the ego, even positive change feels like a threat. Every time you reach for distraction instead of doing the work, you are not being weak. You are being fiercely consistent. Consistent with the autobiography you wrote about yourself long before you understood what you were writing. The comfort of your failure is not an accident. It is loyalty to an old self. And that self will fight harder than you expect. Your brain will sabotage every goal that contradicts what it believes you are. Stop asking what you need to do. Start asking who you need to become. Not the version of you that finishes projects sometimes. Not the version that tries when motivated. The version that simply is. The writer who writes, the builder who builds, the person who shows up not because they feel like it, but because that is who they are. This is not motivation. This is identity architecture. You don't build a new life by forcing new behaviors onto an old self. You build a new self, and the behaviors follow naturally. Start small, impossibly small. Not because small actions change the world, but because small actions repeated change what you believe about yourself. And that belief is the only foundation that holds. Identity is not something you discover. It is something you decide and then defend. The people who seem effortlessly disciplined are not fighting themselves every morning. They stopped fighting the moment they decided who they were. They are not motivated. They are aligned. Their actions and their identity point in the same direction, and that coherence produces what looks from the outside like superhuman consistency. You are not broken. You are misaligned. The mask you wear for the world has become more real to you than the person underneath it. And the longer you wear it, the harder it becomes to remember who put it on and why. Discipline was never the answer. It was always the wrong question. So the next time you sit down to do the work that matters and feel that familiar pull toward distraction, don't ask yourself why you can't stay disciplined. Ask yourself something harder. Who exactly is the person sitting in that chair right now? Because if you don't know the answer to that, no system, no routine, and no amount of willpower will ever be enough.